G'day there, it's Mark here from Mark's Reviews and Tutorials, and I'm going to take you through a tutorial here on how to change out the front brakes on a BMW. This one here is an 07 530i, and it's a station wagon, but front wheels wise, front brakes, it's exactly the same, the sedan or the station wagon. Now I'm going to start off by saying, if you're unsure and you've never worked on a car before, don't start with brakes. I did some automotive training when I was at school in my senior years, and they never taught us brakes. They taught us all sorts of other things, but they said to us, nah, we're not teaching you brakes because it's all just an overview, so we don't want you to play with them, because you don't play with brakes. You get them wrong, it's pretty serious in your car. You get your engine wrong and it stalls, that's less serious than you put your foot on the brake and nothing pulls up. So if you're unsure, don't start with brakes. Get competent, but other than that, they're reasonably straightforward. But if you don't know what you're doing, please don't. This one is best left to the mechanics, because as I said, very serious consequences if you get it wrong. Okay, that being said, let's go through the procedure. First of all, you just need to get the wheel off. So it's a matter of jacking the car up and then undoing the wheel nuts. And as a matter of fact, I'll put up a little card here. You can have a look. I've got a video of how to get the wheel off, so you can get that one down pat if you're not too sure. And then what I did, I just actually had a go at this the night before. I was going to do it the next day, and what I actually did, I got some penetrine or CRC or WD-40, whatever you want to call it, and I sprayed it on the little lock nut that holds the hub in place, and I also sprayed it onto the big nuts over the back, where we was going to be taking the caliper off. I didn't. It's a weird situation here with this car, in that it's got almost brand new pads on it, but the disc is really old. When I bought it, they only replaced what they had to, and they left the old rotor on. But now the rotor's cactus, and I'm replacing it, but the pads are fine. So I took the entire caliper off. When you're doing this, most likely you'll be replacing the pads as well. Okay, so here's where the fun begins. We've got the wheel off, got the car jacked up, that's all pretty standard. But right here is the Allen key in this case that we need to undo to get this to come off. It's mainly your wheel studs which actually hold this whole assembly together under load and when it's working, but so it doesn't fall off every time you take the wheel off. That's also got just one little Allen key head. Now I had an E46 little 3 Series BMW that had me probably 3 days just putting penetrine on, which is like the WD-40 or CRC, to get in there. This was all pretty rusty and yuck, and I just started this job last night and actually put WD-40 on everything, because it can rust here. There's actually rust in there, particularly if you're in a salt area. You're going to let corrosion and rust. This can actually stick on, but these are renowned for being very hard to get out. So don't try and do it with the wrong size Allen key. You've got to get the right size Allen key, which I've got here. But again, as you can see, a little Allen key, like, you can't get a great deal of tension. You can get Allen keys mounted onto sockets and things like that, but we'll see how we go with this. I had the torch out just to make sure. With BMW, a lot of things are actually what they call Torx, T-O-R-X. So rather than an Allen key with 6 flat sides, it's got little pointy bits on it. But this is an Allen key, and we hope and pray. Oh, we're going to need to. That wants to spin, so I'm going to interrupt myself right there. That little nut was an absolute pain in the to get off, so both sides, particularly the driver's side was incredibly difficult. So if you've got a hard nut and you want to listen to me and all the different things I did and all the different things I tried, then just watch the video straight through. But if your nut comes off easy and you want to go on and you want to get on with the rest of the brake change, then have a look. The little number that's popping up now, go to that time marker in the video, and then you'll just go on with the rest of the change. But if you had trouble, you got that little nut and you need to work on it, I'll just show you all the different things I did and how I eventually got it out. Jam that up like I want. Let's see. But hopefully I'm not hitting it hard, but hopefully that'll be enough to crack it and get it to start. But if not, it's going to be down the street to go and buy a socket in that size so that I can get that off. Alright, so here we go. All of the fun things, trying to get tight screws out. The first car I was telling you about, one side was really tight, and the other side just came straight out. So it doesn't always have to be hard, but it often is. This is where good quality tools come into it. If your tools are of decent quality, they'll hold their edge and work really well. And if you're working with really cheap stuff, you'll be found out very quickly with your tools. So one thing about being a DIY mechanic is that yes, you are saving hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but you also need to spend a bit on tools so that you can actually do the jobs and get these off. What I know I mustn't do is destroy this Allen key here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to hit it with the WD-40 again, hit it with more penetrine, see if we can't loosen it up, and go and try the other side. Oh, having some fun here. I've got myself a 6mm piece, which is fitting in there nicely. That is the right size for it. And I figured I'd try this piece rather than putting in a socket set. I'd try it in the drill because it's got a ratchet. It can bang away. And I tried undoing it, and of all things, the chuck actually unscrewed because it's in the undo direction. So I've never had that before, and I've undone some real tight stuff with this drill. The chuck actually unscrewed, so I put it on forward, bang, and let it tighten up really tight, and then undid it. And have a look at what it did. The fitting that that was held into has just absolutely smashed to pieces. So you're going to take on a job like this. I haven't even started the bolts on the back of the caliper yet. We're also going to have to open up the brake pads enough to get it over the lip, because I've got quite a lip on here. And yeah, these little guys here, painful to get off. It was, as I said when I did this last time on a 3 Series, one was really hard, one was really easy. These are both really hard. So there you go. Using the drill hasn't worked. It's just smashed that piece out there that the torque has just destroyed it. So we're going to have to get another way of holding that and then try it with a socket set. So probably a socket set with that size socket to hold the hex here, and then see if we can't undo it that way. Okay, so we're getting serious with these nuts. This is the 6mm hex bit. These hex drives here in a quarter, or it's also a 6.5mm, but a quarter socket. And the only quarter socket I've got, being so little, is off this little shaft drive. So I've had to make it bigger, which then goes up to my proper tool kit, up to the full 1/2" drive. I think that's a 3/8" drive, and I don't know what that one is down there. But this is getting serious. And this ratchet here, I'm not using the ratchet, but this one is the one I put the great big breaker bar on when I'm taking car wheels off and undoing bolts, and may even need to do it for the bolts on the back here. So I don't believe that any of this is going to break. I hope it's going to be strong enough and we get this little sucker out. So again, we need the screwdriver jammed in there and turn it around to hold it in place. Let me get the 6mm bar on. I don't think we're going to need the breaker bar. Let's see. Oh, that feels like it's stripping out, so not good. I'll have another go. Alright, so this has been a real royal pain. I'm going to go through the process. It's another YouTuber video, look at, where everything is just easy and done. I don't find that to be the case. I think a lot of stuff, particularly working on cars. So I've got a hammer. I'm going to try to jolt this off because I believe that's what it needs, but of course I have to keep it really good and square in there so that I don't that's feeling like it's stripping. There is also, the next thing is an impact wrench you can fit onto here, so you bang it and each time you hit it with the hammer it undoes it. But so it's not a matter of getting enough torque onto it now, it's a matter of getting that to be happy and stay in there. No, it's just spinning and popping out. Okay, I'll keep on experimenting, but yeah, you take on a job like this, as I said, I haven't even got the nuts out of the back there yet. Take on a job like this, you don't know what you're going to come across. So I'm going to revert back to my drill because it's got a really good amount of torque on it, and I can press in really hard at the same time as I'm turning to hold it in. So it's got a ratchet, so it'll bang and rattle, which I think is going to help. But, I'll give it a go and see if we can't get this to come out. Yeah, she's pretty tight. That's at 17. I'll dial it up to 20. Nothing. 24. This is all she's got. Well, actually, that's not got the ratchet. I'll come back to 23. That's what happened last time. It's undoing the chuck. Last thing I need. Okay. Keep experimenting. So this is proving super tight. So what I'm doing now, I've got the 6mm bit and I've got it directly into the drill. So there's no sockets and all the rest of it on it, and we'll see if we can't get it out that way. Okay, so using the drill direct, I was finally able to get that screw out. What a celebration it is to have that little guy out. There he is right there. And yeah, what a pain it was to get that out. But traditionally they're tight, so you almost have to expect that. Okay, so good news. I've finally gotten this bolt out. Absolute pain. I've had to drill it out, as you can see. I've drilled out the center, and then actually got it out using this cold chisel here. Just by first of all, I tried to impact it, hitting it forward in order to break the rust that was holding it in place. So I got that onto there and hit it really, really hard, but none of that worked. I then drilled it out in the center, and it's just a soft steel. It wasn't hard to drill out, but even then still, I got an easy out into it and still couldn't remove it with the drill or anything like that, even with the center drilled out. So what eventually I did, I got this cold chisel and I just dug a big hole in it, basically. You can see there and there, got a nice big hole in it, and then pulled this up as high as I could and then hammered it down, and I was able to drive that out and get it started and then screw it out. Now obviously I've totally destroyed that getting it out, but I've also been down to BMW this morning to the dealership and got myself a brand new one. Exactly the same bolt, and the good news is, you know, I didn't know what to expect. A bolt from BMW, was it going to be $25, something like that? But full retail price, it was only $4. So very happy with that. Got the new bolt that we can put in. But this has picked up a vibration and it's got a big lip, so the rotors have to go, and I'm pretty sure those pads will be fine. We will find out and just switch them out if need be. So I'm not going to pull the caliper apart. I'm just going to take the caliper off, and hopefully there'll be enough gap to get over that lip. I think we should be fine. And what that is two 18mm bolts, one at the top here and one at the bottom. Now, I've got a long reach socket. I actually bought that many years ago. The 18mm was a spark plug socket off a Kawasaki GT650 motorbike it was. Still in my toolbox, so perfect for this use here. But it's not a long bolt. You can use a normal socket with just a short extension. Slipping that onto that bolt. And there is a brake line there you've got to be careful of. And we're going to undo that, and I'm going to give that a little tap with the hammer. Okay, so the first thing is to work out which direction, because we're around on the back, everything undoes anti-clockwise, which is that way, but when you're backwards, you got to turn it what you think is clockwise from this direction. So just see how tight these are, and if they're gonna come. Nope. So I'm going to give them a tap with the hammer. Again, so you don't round off the nut, you've got to make sure that that socket stays fully on and in place. Let's see if just... Fortunately, whoever worked on this car last really over-torqued a lot of things. That's crazy tight. Once again, I'll see if I can slide that bar through. Hit down. No, I'm not going to be able to get out of to hit down. Maybe if I turn the wheel. With both wheels off and off the ground, you can literally turn your wheel that way. Just make sure you're not banging up or running up against anything else. Believe it or not, that's giving. I can feel it. Again, just checked. Make sure you're up against. You see, you don't want to be putting this sort of pressure onto a brake line or something. Boy, oh boy, that was done up tight. Okay. We'll come back to where we're not poking through suspension and steering parts. All right, come back around this way. And remembering to change your direction, we're going up again now. Oh, crazy. There we go. First one's broken, and now we'll do the same on the second one down below. Okay, so looking down over the top of the caliper, I'm just taking these out. They're finger tight now, and that one's fully out. There's the bolt. And now this one's still got the socket on it. Now, this may drop, I doubt it, but we'll see. We want the caliper to come off and then out and then away. And what you need is an ocky strap or something so that you can hook it up. You can't leave it hanging on the brake lines because they're not strong enough for that. What we need to do now is see if I can get this off over that ridge. I don't want to damage the pads, but they need to be open far enough to get over the lip, because there's a lip on the brake here. Now I can, using a clamp, compress back on a solid part here and open that up, but hopefully I'll be able to just get that over. You can see a place here. It's actually where, if there was one on this wheel, a brake sensor would go in there, and that there is the piston. The piston presses onto that, which compresses the pad onto that's the disc rotor there. So what we need to do is press that piston back in. Now you can get a clamp just on the edge of the piston and just slowly clamp it back. It'll just move the piston back a little bit. We can give it a little bit of a tap if you're careful. Nothing hard, because it's a piston. You don't want to rub it up against the side or anything like that. But a clamp, the one that I quickly grabbed was a little bit small, but a G-clamp, something like that, you won't actually find one in the store. That's one I made back in school last millennium, very long time ago, year 10 by the look of it. We cut this out of a solid block of steel, and we've got a bar, and we had to turn that down and then cut the thread onto it, tap a thread through here, fit that on, and then drill and make the crossbar, put the end caps on. They made us do a lot back there in engineering school, didn't they? Good old tech schools. Anyway, it was a little bit too small. I couldn't quite get it on, but with a very big screwdriver, like this guy here, I actually got onto the piston and just leaned on it with my own body weight and just pushed it back a little bit, and it's now loose enough that we can get that back. and over the rotors. I'm just going to grab an ocky strap, so I'll pull it back, and then up here into the suspension I'll hook it so that it's up out of the way, and then we can proceed to get that rotor off. Okay, so the caliper is now off. Gotta love that, beautiful. And I'll give you a look at the pads here. This is the brake pad in here. Let's have a good old look at it. And this is the hard edge, and this is the actual meat of the brake pad. And again, on that side, all of that is the meat, like the wearing surface of the brake pad, and then right down there to the hard edge. So that's huge. They really are not that far off. Brand new, those guys. So we're definitely going to run with those and just switch out the rotor, and we'll have brilliant brakes again. You can see that's a rotor. I've seen some of the other ones on YouTube. This is in Australia, no salt on the roads. So you can see that rotor's still in awesome condition, even though it's totally worn out. This car's done 160,000 kilometers, so I don't know whether they're the originals or not, but this one certainly needs to go. Okay, so here we go. Bolts out, the pad's off, so now there should be nothing holding this on. But she's going to take a bit of a tap. Now you've got a shield here, that's just keeping all the dirt and spray and muck off. Goes all the way around, but there's a brake on this side, so give it a bit of a tap. You don't have to worry about damaging the edge, because that's not ever going to be used again. As I said, these can rust around the center section here. That's why I'm banging it here, just to break that hold. And we don't have to worry about damaging this at all. Just have to make sure of what we're hitting. Yeah, this has been a long time since this has been off. There we go. And then she gives way just like that. And we take the brake rotor off. And yeah, you can see inside there the rust. That's what we had to break off just then. Can you see that? The edges of rust there, where that had actually rusted onto the hub. And the same here. So we always give that a clean with a wire brush around here to get away the rust. And if it's bad, you can also give it a paint. This little bit here does stick through, so you can give that a paint as well. I'm going to paint the new rotors. I'm sick of, you know, big expensive nice BMWs having rusty rotors. I didn't ever get to this to paint it, but I'll definitely paint the new ones. I'm just going to go with black, so it all just disappears and looks the part behind. And the threads you see here, this is where the wheel nuts, here's the wheel nuts here, that's where they actually screw on. So these wheel nuts are not only holding your wheel, the little thing that was so painful to get off is just a locating screw here. But the actual tension and holding this in place is done by the wheel nuts. So again, when your wheel nuts are loose and wobbling, it's also your brake rotor, not only your wheel, which is loose and holding. That all holds onto the hub there. So I just got a wire brush on my drill. So I'm just going to give this a clean up. All right, and now just because I'm me, I just want to put a little bit of paint onto here. Just so there's a layer there. We can just spin that around. And even it gives it, it just stops that metal to metal rust taking place. And also stops it from sticking next time around. And it doesn't take long to wait for that to dry. As a matter of fact, we're going to go and prepare the rotors now. Okay, so we're going to get our new brake rotors out. And you'll know as soon as you start handling these things, they are big and heavy. And obviously there's a whole procedure in actually ordering the right part. So there is nothing wrong with getting the old brake and just doing a quick visual inspection that it is exactly the same. Make sure you've got the right part. Diameters are all good. Yep, that looks perfectly exactly the same. This is genuine BMW, so I doubt that it's lasted 160,000 kilometers, but it's being replaced with Australia has a company, DBA, Disc Brakes Australia, and they provide brilliant brakes. I put them on BMW before, where they make really good OEM spec, so there's no changes to be made, brakes and rotors, so sticking with them. Now they put a protective coating on here so these don't arrive rusty, because they are cast, and that just needs to be wiped off with something. So there we go, quick coat of black, just using enamel paint, and that'll keep it looking the way we want it to look. I showed you earlier in the video about how to open the caliper up, and that was you can see that little mark there where I've had, not where the brake sensor goes, but behind it. That's actually the front ring of the piston right there, and I put a big screwdriver onto that and just leaned on it just to press that caliper back. Now I'm not changing my pads. If your pads are fully worn, which means like they've been gripping right down like back here, then you're going to have to compress those fully open. It'll be quite a job. All I had to do was open it up enough so I could get it over the lip that was on the old rotor, and then what I did, this hammer has a rubber handle on it, and you can see the shape of it. It's thin in one area and fat in the other. I was able to slide it in. It was really tight to go in between the brake pads, but then just by twisting that and just going slow, this is going through hydraulic lines, you don't want to pop the lid off your reservoir or anything like that. I was just able to turn that fully around, put that back in the middle of the pad, and the rubber's not going to damage anything or hurt anything, and turn it around so it was then in the sideways direction, and that opened up those calipers right up. So, and then I left it like that overnight, so that when it comes to put I was waiting on the bolt, so when it comes to put the these pads and the brake caliper section back onto the rotor, that's open far enough and it'll go straight on. So just very gentle pressure and just turning something like that, and it opened the pads up, pressed them apart, and now we can put the whole thing back together. So I might put this on time lapse because there's no tight bolts or anything like that now. It's just rotor on, do up the screw, put this on, do up the bolts, put the wheel on, and it's done. There's also a brake sensor line on this one, which I've disconnected. Where's he gone? There he is. And so last things, I'll be putting that brake sensor back on. You can have a look at that and make sure it's not broken. As long as that piece of metal is not broken, it should be fine. But if you're replacing your pads, it should have come with a new brake sensor wire, so replace it. But if your pads aren't gone, then hopefully the brake sensor will be fine. So there you go. Got a new bolt to put in, and we are ready to rock and roll. Okay, we've got a couple of things to look at here. I've put the bolts in top and bottom. This is my socket here. As you can see, this is the brake line. When you're looking over the top, the brake sensor, sorry, and that has actually ended up under the bolt. So if I'd have just kept on going and reefed that up, the bolt wouldn't be done up and I would have destroyed the brake sensor, and I can't get that out without damaging either. So I've got to remove the bolt again and get that out. And another thing to notice is, you see here, the clearance between the socket and that nut there, this line constantly wants to sit on top of the nut. That's where it naturally falls. So if you put your socket on again, you're rubbing up onto here. There's a very high chance of breaking that line as well. So this is the top bolt. The bottom one appears to be clear, but the top bolt, just be careful. If you can't get it on, just move that to the side. Then there's enough clearance to come past that bolt. And yeah, if you've undone the brake line, make sure that it isn't falling under the bolt like that. So I've now got to remove that bolt, get that brake line out, and then put the top bolt back in again. Great, so those two back bolts are done up. nice and snug, nice and tight. The rotor's sitting beautifully on here and in place, and we're looking good. So now all we need to do is slip the brake sensor back in, and that goes, you can see that slot here where the little mark is, that's the actual piston, and then that there is where your brake sensor goes. And this is your brake sensor right here, and that actually needs to come under there because it needs to go back where it was here. Sorry, I've got you a bit sideways there. That fits down over the top of that, and then that cap comes over the top, holds it in place, and then that's it, that's all in place. And then that's the cap back on, and then slipping in here, and that goes in there, and that's done. That just slides in place like that. It's a friction fit, and it's ready to go. So now we're all done here, so we're ready to put the wheel back on.